Well, hello and welcome again to this episode of The Unfair Advantage, where we explore strategies, insights, and methodologies to give you an unfair advantage. I'm Mona Hilton, CEO of Advantage Anywhere, and we are so proud and excited to bring you topics and guests that will stretch your mind and grow your business. Now, if you've missed any of the amazing episodes of Unfair Advantage, or you just want to binge watch on topics that will improve your business, your life, check out the Unfair Advantage recordings at www.advantageanywhere.com/videos. And of course, be sure to get on the notification list so you'll find out about upcoming episodes. You can do that by emailing info@advantageanywhere.com. Now, I have to tell you, you can tell by the smile on my face that one of the greatest joys that I have is introducing you to absolutely brilliant thought leaders that you might not otherwise ever have the opportunity to get to know. Maybe they're outside of your industry or your circle of influencers, or maybe you just haven't met them yet. And today's guest is Claudia Netting, and she perfectly fits that description. I always say success leaves clues, and there's so much value in learning from other industries, and their perspectives are oftentimes the keys to unlock innovation and repositioning and success in your business. So you'll definitely want to find Claudia and follow her on LinkedIn after this. So as a bit of introduction, today Claudia is going to share some of her experiences and her thought track on how to create and execute what she calls the 3 R's: reposition, reinvent, and remarket. You're going to learn how changing your internal brand is key to revolutionizing your external brand. Now, officially, Claudia is a managing principal of Access One World, and she's simultaneously the COO of SAN Innovation. She has repeatedly proven her talent and her skills to re-energize and restructure organizations and develop strategic initiatives and capture emerging business opportunities. Now, on a personal note, I met Claudia through a mutual business colleague, and I have to tell you, I thoroughly enjoy every single conversation I have with her. She always brings deep insights and very well thought out ideas to every interaction we have. I love talking to her, and I'm really excited for you to get to hear her and learn from her experience and her ideas today. So Claudia, welcome to Unfair Advantage. We're so honored to have you, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
Thank you, Mona. The honor is absolutely mine as well. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And let's dive into it, right?
I really am looking forward to this. Now, I do have to start with something, Claudia. The world has been turned upside down in the last couple of years. And I know we're going to talk about repositioning and reinventing and remarketing. And I feel like we could not do this justice without addressing what we've been through over the last couple of years. Would you share a little bit with us about how this came about and how you've seen businesses change or thrive under these circumstances?
I think I had a very dramatic experience, when the pandemic started. Part of my business is some of my clients are international clients, and I get to travel to Europe and other places in the world. I feel extremely fortunate to. It's a privilege, to be honest. And I remember in March, when initially the pandemic started, March 2020, I was on a flight from Miami to Milan. And when we exited the plane in Milan, we were met by Italian health government workers that were wearing white suits, hazmat suits. And we were, examined, temperature was taken. And at that point, it dawned on me that, this is much bigger than we anticipated, and that it's going to be a global pandemic, no matter what the outside says. And I guess it was a wake-up call for me, because I realized that, as a business owner, and, I've been owning and operating my business for many years, our life is going to dramatically change. And when I came back to the States, I guess it really hit home because I spoke to my colleagues and people that I've worked with for many years, and we were all kind of scratching our heads. How are we going to interact with customers? How are we going to interact with our employees? How can we motivate our teams and ourselves? And so for all of us, business owners, entrepreneurs, folks in leadership positions, we had to reinvent ourselves and how we internally and externally interact and do business with one another. I think it was a daunting task in the beginning because it was a little bit chaotic, but I think we quickly adapted. And I think we realized that, yes, we're not going to go lunch for a while with our clients. And yes, we can't, interact with our teams in the office and do brainstorming meetings and, and celebrate birthdays together. But the bottom line is that we figured out a way to refocus, back to what was important. And what was important is that, our team internally feels that they're supported no matter what, which in my company we achieved. And on the external, for our customers, we found very creative to interact with them and show them that we care, and no matter what, that we're here for them. And in some instances, we spent more time and we nurtured more than ever before. And at the end of the day, it brought us more customer loyalty. So whatever the learning experience of the pandemic was, I think as stressful and as chaotic it was in the beginning, it also provided opportunities for people from all different walks of life. So I think there are a lot of good things that came out of the pandemic, a lot of business opportunities that, were just formed because of the pandemic and became successful. So again, we adapted and we grew, and this is what we do as business owners. We constantly reinvent ourselves and become successful.
Yeah, that is so good. I know we talked earlier about how this was a natural for digital companies like Amazon and so on and so forth to just really grow and expand. But, the silver lining for the companies like most of us who are not completely digital prior to this is, just like you said, the opportunity to innovate and reinvent and adapt and find new ways of communicating and connecting with people that frankly aren't going to go away. They're just going to grow.
And I think, we came up with creative ideas. We sent lunch coupons to our clients and we set certain times, and we created a lunch club once a month with our clients where they were able to interact with each other. And we talked about tough stuff. We talked about how to deal with being at home with the family and the kids. We talked about homeschooling. We talked about their companies. And it was almost like a camaraderie that developed among us. And like I said, our customer loyalty grew. And I also started joining a lot of different, digital platforms that connected me with like-minded business owners, where we kind of helped each other and had opportunity to talk to one another. At the end of the day, I think, we came through. And we're glad we're coming to the end of the pandemic, to be honest, because we do miss the interaction, we do miss the energy exchange, and having the opportunity to sit across someone and talk to them on a one-on-one basis. That's just a different experience.
Yeah, there's nothing to replace that face-to-face body language, like you said earlier, eyeball to eyeball, getting to talk to someone. But the old cliche still rings true: what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So it forces you to dig deep and find new ways to try to make those connections. And that's actually an excellent segue. People use the term reposition a lot these days, Claudia, and it's thrown around a lot. And I think sometimes the meaning is lost in its overuse. Would you share with us a little bit about repositioning and how you see that before we kind of dive into a case study?
I think, first of all, reposition really just means that you take, like you mentioned it before, you take a really hard look at your current business strategies, especially if you have the feeling that your business is stagnating, that you're not, as we say, move the needle. So I think what it really means, before you do anything else, you need to do your research in your own company, within your business, externally. Of course, you also look at your competitors and what they're doing. how we work is we create a matrix for our clients, and that matrix allows us kind of understand and focus on the core business. When we look externally at the competition, we typically look what do they do well, and at the same time what doesn't work for them, because we always learn from one another. We learn from examples and we work from one another. So this matrix that we have created is then being put to good use. I think that's kind of the approach that I'm taking with all of my clients, is especially when you see the frustration, because as business owners, we all feel like we have a calling, right? We want to reach our goals. We want to deep inside of us, we have this calling and we want to succeed. So especially when I see customer decline in the company, revenue decline or stagnation, we start to talk to our clients and make them understand that they need to learn. They need to learn to be better. They need to adapt. They need to mediate, compromise, and like we touched on before, stay true to your message and to your beliefs, because these are the things that brought you and created your desire to be in business in the first place. Right. And that's really where I think the first start of repositioning commences, is creating that matrix and taking a deep dive into your existing business structure and looking on the outside and learning how can we become better and how can we increase revenue, reinvent ourselves, and become successful just as we started our business.
I think that's so important. And I think it's so easy when things are going well to just kind of coast and call it in, as they say, where you're just floating based on the success that you're having. But when challenges hit you in the face, whether they're external challenges or internal challenges, it forces you to stop and say, whoa, we've got to rethink this. We've got to take sometimes a hard or difficult look at what we're doing, like you said, what our competition is doing, and think about new ways to innovate. A lot of times, whatever industry you're in, our clients don't even know what they want until you show it to them. So reinventing is so important. And I know you told me a story the other day about reinventing a uniform company. And I think that's a beautiful illustration of what that looks like and what it takes to do that.
A specific case study that you and I talked about is a story that is so incredible, because it just shows that you're willing to be open to make changes and to just reinvent yourself. Sometimes things just happen naturally. And I think in this case, I was a contributing writer for a magazine that is the equivalent of Forbes magazine in the United States. And I was internationally syndicated. My column was about marketing ideas. And I wrote every month for this magazine. As fate will have it, the article is republished, and it comes into the hands of a woman who owns a uniform business that is declining. And quite frankly, she was thinking about closing shop and just, looking for something new. So she called me one day and she said, I read your article and I want to meet you. So I said, fine. We set up a time. My team and I, we did exactly, what we discussed before. We did an incredible deep dive as far as research was concerned. We researched her company. We researched how she produces her uniforms, how they're sewn, type of quality, fabrics, and so forth and so on. So the four of us, my three partners and I, and we just put our heads together and we said, you know what, this is a fun project. It's great. We all love, at least, when I look at myself, I enjoy dressing up for work. So we said, so how can we help this company become a niche boutique company that becomes successful on a national and international basis? We actually created a program for her that we said, look, you're currently outsourcing your manufacturing. The quality control is out of your hand. You're using fabrics that are not breathable. So if you're talking to nurses, doctors, estheticians, dermatologists, they're all complaining about sweating in uniforms. And this is all the research that we gathered when we talked to the industry. So this was part of our matrix, in our matrix findings. So we suggested to her to start a small manufacturing business here We found 4 sewing machines. We found sewers. We shopped for, I think, a very, very nice fabric, which was breathable. It had a little bit of spandex in it, so it was comfortable to stretch and to wear and to work. And then we hired pattern makers, started to create our own patterns. And 6 months later, we created inventory as much as we could. We decided that we're not going to be like the competition. We're going to create uniforms from petite size 0 all the way to size 24. And then we decided we're going to create a digital platform for professionals, taped fashion shows in the back of my house with, just regular models, friends that were donating their time. We put this on her website, and then we went to the first show in Las Vegas. On the first day, we sold out. I think we bought about $8,000 worth of uniforms. Of course, the customer was happy, her customer were happy. We were happy, and we were there with her at the show because we wanted to give her the support and also make her feel that we're 100% behind this plan. We started with initially when she came to me, she had sales of 50,000. In the first year, we sold 750,000.
Wow, Claudia.
So it was an incredible project because our client was willing to learn, adapt, grow, pivot, do it all over again. And additionally, we added to the mix colors because we realized that our competition, the 900-pound gorilla companies that are all over the world, really just had few colors available. And we looked at the feedback from the customer. The customer told us, we want blues, we want tan colors, so we really took that customer feedback, and again we looked at the numbers to see that it's feasible. She ended up selling her business for many millions of dollars. She became a very successful business owner by being open and reinventing, reinvent and remarket her business to her customers.
Okay, so I heard you say a couple of things over and over again, and I want to make sure our audience picks up on this. One of the things that you did initially was talk to the industry and find out what their complaints are with what they had out there. They weren't breathable, they weren't comfortable, the sizes apparently weren't appropriate for the industry. And then you said later, you went back to get the customer feedback that they wanted additional colors, probably additional styles. And I think that's something that when we're inside of our office and inside of our little box, we think about what we are aware of. But until you talk to the customer and say, hey, what do you want? What is your feedback? Only then can you really know where to point your guns to innovate. Where should we spend our energies? I think that's really awesome, Claudia. Wow, congratulations. Those are unbelievable numbers. I love that story.
I think, we really, and again, when you look at a company, we are incubators. It means we get hired to have a neutral understanding of your business, of the industry, and how to create vehicles for additional revenue and to reposition or position your company properly. Sometimes, and I know you and we talked about this previously, sometimes all the aspects of your business are there. Everything is there. The only thing you have to do is you have to align it differently, look at it from a different perspective, and sometimes so inundated with appointments and schedules and whatever your business may be. But I think at the end of the day, when you have someone who is neutral and who sees it kind of from a bird's eye view, just help the business to evolve and looks at it in a different way, and probably also not in an emotional way, but more practical, clear and concise way, versus when you're right in the middle of it. And I'm talking about myself first and foremost, because I tend to be the same way, get so involved, into certain projects that sometimes you need someone from the outside to kind of shake your and say, what, this might work really well for you. And then when you think about it, and the more you think about it, so much sense.
Yeah, that's so true. I think we can become myopic, not only in our own business, like inside the walls of our own business, where we're looking at what we always have looked at, but also within an industry. And I think it's important to point that out, that even within an industry, that I heard a statistic that if you've been in your industry for more than 2 years, you have become myopic and you're only seeing what you're seeing inside your industry. That's why I love sharing perspectives from other industries to provide, like you said, Claudia, that you called it neutral understanding, but I also wrote down unbiased. You also said unemotional, but having an unbiased view that maybe sees things a little differently than what we have become accustomed to looking at things. In a way, it's a foundation, because until you get that insight, you can't really go to the next step, which is to remarket. And I know you have some ideas about capitalizing on existing opportunities and products and services and what have you. But now that we have kind of looked objectively at our business and our industry, how do we build upon that and start the process of remarketing?
I think that's, like if you look at all those three subjects, I think the remarket, you pretty much take everything, all the information you gathered and all your existing opportunities, because typically when, business owners, we create just a wealth of opportunities around us, whether if it's a network, whether it's an organization you're part of, whether if it's, platforms, or you're in there's network groups all around us. So I think the most important thing is always to first and foremost capitalize on your existing opportunities and remarket and revamp product to your existing customer structure, because these are going to be, they are going to be your eyes and your ears. They are going to give you feedback, and feedback is so important, again, to just learn, adapt, and grow. And I think if you can, if we can start the process with our client, and then the client takes the process and perfects it and makes it better, the future is bright. So I also would, say that position yourself, even if you're a small business and you don't have any employees, or if you have 1,000 employees, or you're a large business, or mid or large size business, you have to position yourself. That means you represent your brand, and you have to think about what that means to you. So that's a very, very important question to ask, because it really asks you, who am I in my business, and what message am I giving the outside world? And I think that's something that, these are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself when you remarket yourself. The other thing, what I always suggest is that, rub elbows with the who's in your industry. Join organizations, go to network meetings, join, platforms, Zoom meetings. I mean, a lot of things that, you can do. There's like a founders club that currently is very active, where you can meet on the platforms. I guess it's a free service. You can join and you can network in the industry. The other thing that I always tell my clients is provide as much free, valuable information as you can. So, for example, I provide once a month free master classes on different subjects, whether if it's, selling on Amazon, types of digital marketing strategies for different social media platforms, because obviously you cannot post the same content that you post on Facebook. You cannot post exactly the same on LinkedIn, because the audience and the audience engagement is different. So you have to maybe do a voiceover on content, or you just have to provide different content for different social media platforms. I always like to encourage business leaders and owners to create a once a month digital newsletter that can be automated through drip campaigns. I mean, there's, little things, snippets that you can keep yourself and your business in the mind of your customer when you create value to them. So blogging features of neighboring industries, for example, don't write about yours, write about something that during conversations or when you survey your customer, they tell you that they talk about it. Give them information about things that may not directly related to you, but to a, could be of interest to them. One of the customers that we are currently working with is a moisture absorber company, and they have just created a ton of affiliate programs with neighboring industries. So they're not only created backlinks on their websites, but now they're connected to industry compatible product services. So they share their traffic with one another. So there are so many things that, we can incorporate that are very easy, simple. They don't cost a lot of money, but I would highly recommend any company just to continue providing free content, keep your brand, so to speak, in their mind when they think about doing business. The other thing what I like is keeping, I guess, the communication channels all open and getting your customers to give you feedback, because that feedback is absolutely invaluable. Sometimes customers give us ideas, they give us hints, nudges, and when we look at it from a business perspective, we should always follow up on customer ideas and see if they're feasible and if they're a good idea to do. And if so, definitely follow up on it and create and remarket or market a new product.
That's really good advice. So I'm grinning partly because this is not supposed to be a sales pitch for Advantage Anywhere and digital communications and drip campaigns and all that, but I still found that interesting. I do have a question for you. You mentioned master classes, and I know a lot of our audience uses pre-pandemic, they used lunch and learns in person, which some of them are starting those up again. And a lot of people are moving the lunch and learn concept to the digital space using web share and what have you to conduct these meetings. Your idea for master classes, are those strictly for your existing clients or members, as you call them, or is it for prospecting or both?
Well, it can be either or. You can do a masterclass for your existing customer, and like it's all about the feedback and understanding your customers. So when they bring feedback and tell you, we really would love to learn about this, or we've heard about that, you guys do it, can you do this for us? Or typically the customer already leads you into the direction that they'd like to learn or see more. So I think this is one thing that you could create, for example, a monthly schedule. And like I said in the beginning, and I want to circle back to that, you can create your own club with your clients. You could actually introduce, and I know we're promoting, but let's say that the senior living community, you could be doing a masterclass for specifically that group. You could be doing a masterclass specifically for healthcare or for lawyers, for builders, so it's really up to you to research that segment and then see what comes back. And I think right now masterclasses, because a lot of companies just provide that as a free, as a free service to their clients. I think it's very attractive because they can have the lunch and listen to your masterclass. And typically I like the LinkedIn layout where you have a library of classes that your customer can look at their leisure. So if they don't have time during lunch to join your meeting, they can watch it in the afternoon, or they can listen to it on their way home, and or you have to make it available that it is accessible and that it's available any time of the day or on weekends. And that you have your library, and I know in your company you have an amazing library and resources that your clients can look back on. But I think it really is that the customer has, constantly I guess the feeling that you're on top of things. You're learning, you're following up, you're listening to them, you're taking their suggestions into consideration, and you're doing something with them. And I think that's very important. The second thing is you can create sort of audience engagement programs. What I mean by that is that, for example, you create a content campaign, let's take LinkedIn, and connect with audiences that could be future customers. And how do you create a relationship is that you provide free content to them. And if you look at companies today, they either provide free guides for, I don't know, I want to say they provide a guide how to use social media and upcycle and reposition and reuse certain content. So there is a seminar right there. It's free. How it works is you provide your contact information. This is your first step to accessing companies that you normally wouldn't have had an opportunity to connect with. So once you start to open your content channel in providing valuable content, and what I mean by opening your channel, I don't mean drown your audience in content, because they will not go for that. You have to create a specific schedule, let's say once a week or once every 2 weeks, where you create downloadable content to them, whereas you can follow up with an email whether they liked it, they had a chance to look at it. You can establish a relationship, and with that relationship you can try to introduce other products to them or use them for any type of other purpose, and so forth and so on. But I think it's important to know that, you know, whatever content you use on Facebook will, you know, is not necessarily appropriate on LinkedIn or Instagram or any, you know, other platforms that are social media platforms that are out there. So I think it's very important, if you create a new audience engagement, that again, learn about the new audience, learn about the market segments, collect as much research information as you can, and then create a content strategy, how to engage with your audience and how to create, number one, following, which is very important, and our fan base, and number two, how can you bring that prospect on board and make them your customer.
Yes, and I'm taking a lot of notes, and I'm also filtering it through some of our audience eyes. I know some of them are B2B, so that LinkedIn is a beautiful channel for B2B. Some of them are B2C, so they're dealing with the customers, and then a lot of them, including you mentioned senior living, are both. So their customers might be more on Facebook, but their referral sources, you talked about engaging with the who's who and aligning with industry leaders, and you talked about referral programs. Those referral sources are more likely to be on LinkedIn. So having channels, like you said, that target different audiences with different messages is important. I mean, you can't ignore one or the other. So that's also a good advice. And the other thing I heard you say that I thought was really good was, I'm going to paraphrase it, making your content evergreen, so that it's not just good today, it's good tomorrow and the week after and the month after, and it always has value. It always has, you know, indefinitely, ideally, but obviously some content is only good for a period of time. But to the extent that you can, making content that has evergreen value and provides value long term. Would you agree with that, Claudia?
And I think it not only, you know, creates a relationship with a potential new customer, it strengthens the relationship, creates customer loyalty with your existing customer, but it also strengthens your digital footprint, your digital DNA. And I think, you know, the time or the future is obviously moving forward very fast in digital. It's going to be, I think, you know, sooner or later, there will be so much more a digital customer experience than we never had before. And I also think that generation, you know, especially, you know, I think generation X, Y, and Z are, you know, their future is going to be 100% digital. You know, you can turn it and twist it, but that's where we're going, and that's the future in business. So I think a couple of things, if you can capitalize on customer experience, create that positive customer experience, that is a lasting experience, that's very important. Your digital footprint, very important. Think about, because everything, every snippet, everything that you comment on, that you like, that you share, that you reshare, upcycle, repurpose, everything that you do has a footprint. So very important when you think about your own content strategy that you're precise, concise, and create a clear message and repeat that message over and over again. That is just very, very important to, again, and like we said before, have your customers comment and provide feedback. Just create maybe a customer feedback program where they get to comment on products and services that you provide. I think that's, again, very, very important part of your overall strategy.
Now, are you referring to, like, for an example, Facebook private groups, or are you referring to picking up the phone and talking to your customers? What are some examples of what you're referring to there?
I think there's a number of things how you can accomplish that. I think there's a program called mention.com that is very successful in, if you sign up on mention.com, you can actually monitor what people say about you. So instead of, for example, me looking at my Facebook page or my or Facebook group feedback, any type of social media platform, you can get the monitor.com program, and it will send you reports, where you were mentioned, what was said, what was written, what was posted, what was liked, what was not liked. So you have this digital tool, and we talked about it. There are a lot of programs out there, but I think monitor.com is a really, really good program that allows you to do that. It automizes the process. And so I think that could be one strategy that could work very well. The second one is that, yes, pick up the phone, call your customer once a month, quick call. How are you? How's it going? What's new? And ask them a couple of questions. Just weave those questions into your conversations and see what kind of feedback you're getting. And keep record of it and see how many customers have the same issues, the same questions, the same requests, the same, looking at different issues and need help with different things. So you can gauge that, and I think you can take what you receive, the information that you receive on Monitor, and see what people say about your activities, and take what customer feedback you get. And I think it's going to give you tremendous insight on both the external digital side as well as on the real customer side, speaking and getting feedback from your customers.
Yeah, I think we sometimes get so busy doing the digital stuff that we forget the obvious. Pick up the phone and call your customer, ask them how things are going, see if they're happy with you. And if your customers, if you're in senior living and your customers are your residents, you can go talk to them, but you can also call their family members, the people who referred them to you, and find out what their take is on how things are going and get their feedback as well. So there's a lot of different ways to apply that strategy, all of which are valuable and all of which are really honestly necessary. So Claudia, I know we're running out of time. I did want to ask you, I know we covered a lot of things, and I'd love to bring you back to talk specifically about DNA, your digital DNA, because I know you have some brilliant insights that people don't really know about as it relates to digital DNA. So I'd love to talk to you about that on another call. But today I wanted to kind of wrap up with the one takeaway question. So you shared a lot of great ideas, and I'm sure everyone is scribbling as many notes as I am. But what is one takeaway, Claudia, that you would like for people to remember from this episode?
Well, I think number one is that the most important thing is, I think, align yourself with people that make you a better person. And of course, it goes both ways. So, and I'm speaking specifically about my team. My partners make me who I am, and vice versa. So I think that would be one. And the second one is be open. And I'd like to circle back to our initial conversation. Be open to change and to reinvent yourself. And the last thing I ever thought is, and you and I talked about this, I don't know, Mona, if you ever planted a tree. I don't know if you have a yard, or have you ever planted a tree?
Yes, and I love that analogy. Share it.
And I only have a very, very small patio, so mine is a small tree. But I think if you plant a tree, first of all, you're engaging with nature, and you get excited to see just how amazing nature is and how perfectly it works with one another. But I also think you have to learn to, one, position the tree correctly. So find the right place, dig the hole, put the tree in, make sure that all the roots are properly positioned, and then nurture the tree, talk to the tree, hug the tree, and just like you would do with your business, nurture your business and watch it grow, nurture your customers, and just watch your business have a bright future. I want to thank you for inviting me to your show. It was just wonderful to talk to you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate you, Claudia. You are a jewel, and I'm so glad that I get to introduce you to some people who may have never met you before, and thank you so much. So if you have enjoyed today, and I know you have, and you'd like to connect with Claudia, her link to her LinkedIn is on the screen. You can also just go to LinkedIn and search for Claudia Nettig. I encourage you to take the effort to follow her, to get to know Claudia, to connect with her. You will benefit from knowing her. I know that I have. So that's the one thing I can promise you that you'll enjoy. And Claudia, again, I want to thank you. You are amazing, brilliant mind, and I'm so honored that you are willing to share your ideas, your experience, and some of those case studies with us. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this episode of Unfair Advantage, the 3 R's: reposition, reinvent, and remarket. We look forward to seeing you on the very next episode of Unfair Advantage. Have a great day. Bye-bye.